Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the shortlist for the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. So the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction is a literary prize that I really enjoy. I've been reading along with this one for many years, and the shortlist has just been announced. I was just under halfway through the long list when the shortlist was announced, and I have conveniently read half of the shortlist now, but I am planning to read the rest of the shortlist in the couple of months before the winner is announced. But I thought I would do a quick video today just looking at the Walter Scott Prize shortlist, what made it onto the shortlist, what didn't, and what my reading plans are for reading along with the long list and shortlist going forwards. This will probably be quite a short video. I think if I had better timing, I would have done like a shortlist reaction combined with some reviews of the Walter Scott Prize, but I very recently did a few reviews and I haven't read anything else from the long list since that last video, so instead I thought I would just do a separate video looking at the shortlist. So there were 12 books on the long list and exactly half, 6 of them are on the shortlist. There are another 2 months to go before the winner is announced. The winner will be announced at the Borders Book Festival on either the 12th or the 13th of June. So there's still 2 months to go, still plenty of time to read some wonderful books that are on the Walter Scott Prize for Historical Fiction. But let's have a look at what is on the shortlist. So the 3 books that I have read that are on the shortlist are The Heart in Winter by Kevin Barry, The Mayor by Unread, Hampshire, and Glorious Exploits by Ferdia Lennon. I will leave down below the videos where I have reviewed those 3 books. I am so utterly delighted to see Glorious Exploits on the shortlist because I love Glorious Exploits so much. Probably my favourite book of the year so far. No, definitely my favourite book of the year so far. It was so good. I thought Glorious Exploits was incredible. I have not stopped thinking about it. I think it will remain one of my favourite works of historical fiction for a long time. I was going to say I love it as much as Cuddy, which was on the Walter Scott Prize long list last year and which was my favourite book of last year. Do I love Glorious Exploits as much as Cuddy? Yes, I think probably. Anyway, so Glorious Exploits, we'll start off with that. Now I've already started my rant about how good it is. Glorious Exploits is a wonderful novel set in ancient Sicily about 2 out-of-work Sicilian potters who entertain themselves by speaking to Athenian prisoners of war who are imprisoned in the quarries, and they end up persuading and or forcing some of these Athenian prisoners to act in a play that they want to put on. And it's a book about power and power structures and so much more, and it is written in a wonderful way and the tone of it is just so good, and I feel like I have rarely read something that is both so fun and so funny and also so like deeply tragic and heart-wrenching, and it's so good, and I'm so pleased that it's on the shortlist, and I really hope it wins. It is definitely my favourite to win, and even when I have read the other 3 books on the shortlist, I am pretty confident the Glorious Exploits will remain my favourite to win. Then the other 2 on the long list, we have The Mayor by Unread, Hampshire, which I thought was fantastic. I reviewed that earlier this week / last week, whenever this video goes up, and I'll leave that link down below. And I really thought The Mayor was a fantastic book, very strong, powerful, intriguing, intense novel, looking at a real historical figure who was a female concentration camp guard, looking at her life and her husband's life and what happens to them when her American husband discovers several years after they have been married that she was a concentration camp guard during the war, something he never knew about her. It's a very complicated book and I literally just reviewed it, so I won't talk about it too much here, but I thought it was really well done, very well written, looking at a lot of really interesting, serious, complex themes in a really layered way. So I'm really glad to see The Mayor on the shortlist, especially because I felt like it was a less likely one to make the shortlist. I'm not really sure why, partly because the subject matter is so intense, I suppose, but also because it's just a book I've heard less about. You know, I feel like there's been a lot of buzz about Glorious Exploits and The Heart in Winter and some of the other books on the shortlist that I haven't talked about yet, but there hasn't been about The Mayor. But I think it's fantastic and it's really good to see it make the shortlist, and hopefully more people will read it and talk about it, because it is a really great book and asks a lot of important questions. So yeah, I'm really pleased to see The Mayor on the shortlist. I am slightly less excited to see The Heart in Winter on the shortlist. As I said in my review video, this wasn't really a book that was for me. I thought it was really good in some ways, and I thought the ending was great, and I can see why it would really appeal to some people, but it was just too sort of literary in the writing style for me. I didn't really get on with the writing, and that's fine. So The Heart in Winter is a very literary western set in 1890s Montana about a man who runs away with a married woman, and kind of their journey through the landscape in winter. Like I said, lots to love about The Heart in Winter, just wasn't really for me, just that bit too kind of literary in the writing style. So those are the 3 books that I have read from the shortlist, and I am very pleased to see The Mayor and Glorious Exploits on there, and not hugely surprised to see The Heart in Winter on there, even though it wasn't necessarily for me. But there are 3 other books on the long list that I haven't yet read. So 2 of them are books that I was kind of expecting to see on the shortlist. Well, one of them I was definitely expecting to see on the shortlist, and that is The Safekeep by Yael van der Wooden. This book has obviously got a lot of hype and a lot of attention. It was longlisted, maybe shortlisted. It was definitely longlisted for the Booker Prize, and it's been very popular. A lot of people love it. A lot of people also hate it. I have yet to read it and find out on which side I will fall. This book is set in the 1960s in the Netherlands, kind of looking at the aftermath of World War II and a very intense relationship between a woman and her brother's new girlfriend. I don't know whether or not I'm going to like this. I feel like I have heard many things about it that make me think I might not like it, but I do want to read it, especially now it has made the shortlist. My library has this on audiobook. I am in the wait list, but I think it's gonna be a while. Let me check the app and see how long it's gonna be before I get to listen to The Safekeep. 9 weeks, which is just after the Walter Scott Prize winner is announced. So I guess I'm gonna hope that some people return it early, or I may give in and buy the audiobook myself. But I feel like I'm not confident enough of how much I'll like it that I would probably rather get it out of the library. But, I do want to read it before the winner is announced. Then the other book that is on the shortlist that I was kind of thinking might be on the shortlist, and that I'm very pleased to see on the shortlist, even though I haven't read it yet, is The Land in Winter by Andrew Miller. I have read one book by Andrew Miller before, Now We Should Be Entirely Free, which I loved. That was on the Walter Scott Prize, Longlist, and possibly Shortlist, I can't remember, a few years ago. But I'm very excited to read The Land in Winter, and my physical library hold has just come in, so I need to go to the library and collect that soon. But I will hopefully read that in the next couple of weeks. Will I? Maybe I'll end up reading it at the very beginning of May. I feel like now the shortlist has been announced, I'll probably stagger out the remaining books that I want to read from the Walter Scott Prize. The winner is not being announced till June now. So The Land in Winter is also set in the very early 1960s, 1962, I think, in the West Country, and it looks at various people who are caught in a big snowstorm and kind of imprisoned in their homes in various different kind of places, and how their lives kind of unravel during this. I've heard really great things about this from quite a few people on BookTube, and I have really liked what I've read from Andrew Miller before. So I'm very excited to get to that one, and hopefully I will read that soon. And then the final book on the shortlist, which is not one I know very much about and not one I was necessarily expecting to make the shortlist, is The Book of Days by Francesca Kay. So this novel is set in the mid-16th century and is a story of a woman called Alice, whose husband is dying, and her dying husband is kind of obsessed with building a chapel for his local church. And the book is kind of about the Reformation, I think, or at least is engaging with the Reformation. I feel like The Book of Days wasn't very high up my priority list when the long list came out, but now that it's on the shortlist and thinking about it again, I am quite keen to read this one. The Walter Scott Prize people very kindly sent me a digital review copy, so I should be able to read The Book of Days before the winner is announced. I mean, now that the shortlist has come out and I have already read 3 of the books, I think it is definitely doable for me to read the other 3 before the winner is announced in June. So now that we've had a look at the shortlist, I wanted to quickly talk about some of the books from the long list that didn't make the shortlist. So there are 2 books that I have read from the long list that didn't make the shortlist. Again, I'll leave reviews down below. And I am sad that neither of these made the shortlist because I did think they were both great. I'm feeling especially sad that Mother Naked by Glenn James Brown didn't make the shortlist, because I feel like this book has not had sufficient hype. Whereas I feel like Clear by Karis Davis, the other book I've read that didn't make the shortlist, is fantastic, and as good as Mother Naked, probably. I enjoyed them both a lot, but I feel like I hear a lot more people talk about Clear, although I know that Ben Reads Good has been singing the praises of Mother Naked lately, so I feel like we're gaining some booktube traction on Mother Naked. Maybe more people will read it. I thought it was great. Mother Naked is a glorious, strange, sneakily clever novel set in Durham Cathedral in the 15th century, where a minstrel, a bard, is telling a story, and it's just really good, and you should all read it, and I'll leave my review down below. Clear is a very short novel set in mid-19th century Scotland, looking at religious and social change, the Scottish clearances, and the dynamic between two men stuck together on an island for a period of time, and it was fantastic and really, really short. The audiobook is like 3 hours, and it is 3 hours well spent. So I'm very sad not to see either Mother Naked or Clear on the shortlist, because I thought they were both fantastic. But you know, not everything can be on the shortlist, and while I loved those two books a whole lot more than I did The Heart in Winter, I'm not necessarily that surprised to see The Heart in Winter on the shortlist. Okay, so there are 4 other books from the long list that didn't make the shortlist, 2 of which I think I probably won't read now. The Catchers by Zan Brooks and Munich's by David Pearce. These 2 were not very high up my priority list when the long list was announced, especially Munich's, because quite a lot of it deals with football, and I just feel like I would struggle to be as engaged. So I think I'll probably leave them now. You know, usually every year I read along with the long list, but there's usually a couple of books from the long list that I don't end up reading if I'm not super excited about them and they don't make the shortlist. However, the 2 other books from the long list that I haven't read, I would like to read. So one is The First Friend by Malcolm Knox, a satirical comedy set in the Soviet Union in the 1930s. I feel like you can tell the tone of this book from the cover, and I feel like it will be quite weird, but I kind of feel like I might love it. So I am really keen to read this. The Walter Scott Prize team have sent me a review copy, so I am hoping that I will read this soon. Whether or not I read it before the winner is announced, I'm not sure. It's not on the shortlist, so I might not, but I am keen to read it. And then the other book from the long list that I definitely want to read is A Sign of Her Own by Sarah Marsh. I've been meaning to read this since well before the Walter Scott Prize long list was announced, and I think maybe I'll read it in May, partly for the Spoonies readathon, which I know Emily from No Dull Novels is hosting again, and I know Emily loves A Sign of Her Own. A Sign of Her Own is set in late 19th century America and kind of looks at the deaf community and Alexander Graham Bell's involvement with and treatment of people within the deaf community. I've heard really great things about A Sign of Her Own, and I've been meaning to read it like since before it came out, like since I read about it in the bookseller, so I need to get on and read that one, and I probably will do that very soon. Sad that it didn't make the shortlist, but I'm very excited to read it. There we go. That is the Walter Scott Prize shortlist this year. 3 books that I've already read, 2 books that I absolutely loved. Is Glorious Exploits going to win? I hope so, but I would be very, very happy if the Mayor won as well. I would be less happy if the Heart of Winter won, but you know, that's fine. I'm excited to read the other 3. That's all for now. Thank you very much for watching. Do let me know down in the comments if you've read any of these books, what you thought of them. Are there any prizes you're following at the moment? Probably the Women's Prize. I feel like many more people read along with that, but the Walter Scott Prize is pretty good. So yeah, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.